Here's the specific frustration Prime Video has been getting away with for years. You already pay for Prime, and a huge chunk of Prime Video's actual library still charges you extra to rent or buy, like your subscription never happened. Right now, 15 of those films have quietly moved buckets. Films that used to cost $4 or $5 to rent are, at this moment, included free with a standard Prime membership. I don't know how long this lasts. These catalog shifts happen quietly and reverse just as quietly, so I treat this as a genuinely limited window rather than something to save for later. A De Niro performance so uncomfortable that critics initially misunderstood it completely. A debut heist film that announced one of the most distinctive voices in American cinema, and a true story of Holocaust survival so devastating and so meticulously told that it remains, over 20 years later, one of the most awarded films of its decade. 15 excellent films. Ranked. Let's go. Number 15. American Animals.
You ever feel like you're waiting for something to happen? That thing that could make your life special.
Yeah. Like what?
4 college students in Kentucky decide to steal a collection of rare, priceless books from their university library, including an original Audubon folio worth millions. None of them are criminals. None of them have any real plan. And that's exactly the point. Bart Layton directed this as a hybrid nobody had quite attempted before. A scripted dramatization intercut with actual documentary interviews of the real men who committed the crime, now years later disagreeing with each other on camera about what actually happened and who's responsible. Evan Peters and Barry Keoghan play 2 of the 4, with a specific escalating delusion. Young men who've watched enough heist movies to think they understand what a heist requires, and who slowly discover in real time how catastrophically unprepared they actually are. What makes American Animals genuinely unsettling isn't the crime itself. It's watching ordinary, privileged kids talk themselves into believing they deserve an extraordinary life. And the real men, interviewed decades later, still visibly struggling to explain why they thought this was the way to get one. Structurally inventive, quietly devastating by the end. Number 14. The Man from Nowhere.
찾을 사람 있어.
A quiet pawn shop owner in Seoul keeps to himself. His only real connection is a neighbor's daughter, a young girl who wanders into his shop because nobody else pays attention to her. Then she's kidnapped by an organ trafficking ring, and the pawn shop owner turns out to have a past he spent years trying to bury. Lee Jeong-beom directed this, and it became one of the highest-grossing Korean films of its era for a reason. Won Bin plays Cha Tae-sik with a stillness that makes every sudden burst of violence land harder. He says almost nothing for the film's first act. He doesn't need to. The action choreography, particularly a bathroom knife fight that's become one of the most studied fight sequences in modern action cinema, is brutal, tight, and completely coherent. Every movement readable, every consequence felt. But what elevates the film above pure action spectacle is the relationship at its center. A broken man and an ignored little girl, both quietly starved for someone to actually see them. If you've somehow missed the Korean action renaissance of the 2000s, this is one of the films that started it. Number 13. Ronin.
What's in the case?
That information isn't necessary.
Is it heavy? Is it explosive? Is it chained to some unlucky bloke's wrist? We're gonna have to chop it off?
All right.
What is it?
But I'm not under any obligation to let you know.
If you are not, then the price has got to go up.
Robert De Niro leads an ensemble of former intelligence operatives, American, French, German, Irish, assembled for a mercenary job in France, steal a mysterious briefcase. No questions asked about its contents, from a heavily guarded convoy. John Frankenheimer directed this, and what makes Ronin one of the most respected action thrillers ever made is its almost complete refusal to explain itself. You never learn what's in the briefcase. You're given only fragments about each character's real background, and the film trusts you to stay oriented purely through tension and professionalism, rather than exposition. The film is most famous for something modern action cinema has almost entirely abandoned: Real cars, real streets, real stunt drivers going genuinely dangerous speeds through Paris and Nice with no digital enhancement whatsoever. Robert De Niro plays Sam with weathered, watchful professionalism, a man whose entire skill set is reading a room full of people he can't afford to trust. The ensemble cast, including Jean Reno and Stellan Skarsgård, plays every scene with the specific, wary professionalism of people who've survived by trusting no one completely. Cold, precise, and one of the finest pure genre films of the 1990s. Number 12. Southpaw.
Hey, Billy, why you leaving so soon?
Let's go home.
How about I take your belt?
A boxer at the peak of his career loses everything in the span of a single year. His wife, his house, custody of his daughter, and has to rebuild himself from nothing, one broken piece at a time. Antoine Fuqua directed this, and Jake Gyllenhaal transformed physically in a way that remains genuinely startling, gaining significant muscle and training for months with real professional boxers to make every fight sequence look and feel legitimate. What separates Southpaw from a standard boxing redemption arc is Gyllenhaal's willingness to make Billy Hope genuinely difficult to watch in his lowest moments. Inarticulate, self-destructive, a man whose only language has ever been physical, now forced to find words he's never needed before. Forrest Whitaker plays his new trainer, with a quiet, no-nonsense discipline, someone who sees exactly what Billy's rage has cost him and refuses to let him rebuild using the same broken tools. The fight choreography is visceral, sustained, and shot with a clarity that lets you feel every exchange land. Raw, physically committed, and one of Gyllenhaal's most demanding performances. Number 11. Lucky Number Slevin.
Fisher, listen to me.
I already told you. I'm not Nick Fisher.
Slevin Kalevra arrives in New York for a low-key visit to a friend's apartment, gets mistaken for someone who owes considerable money to two rival crime bosses, and finds himself thrown into a plot involving assassination, revenge, and a scheme considerably more elaborate than anyone around him initially lets on. Paul McGuigan directed Lucky Number Slevin, and what unfolds is a stylish, twist-heavy thriller that keeps recontextualizing its own plot mechanics right up until its final act. A film that rewards close attention with a payoff that reframes nearly every scene that came before it. Josh Hartnett plays Slevin with a wry, controlled confidence that keeps the audience guessing about exactly how much he actually understands about the situation he's supposedly caught in. Bruce Willis, Morgan Freeman, Ben Kingsley, and Lucy Liu round out a cast operating with genuine relish, each given dialogue sharp enough to make even the film's exposition-heavy sequences genuinely entertaining. A slick, quotable, genuinely clever thriller that rewards a second watch once you know where it's going. Number 10. MASH. Two combat surgeons arrive at a mobile army surgical hospital during the Korean War and immediately establish themselves as the least disciplined, most insubordinate officers in the entire unit, because irreverence, they've decided, is the only sane response to operating on a constant stream of dying young men. Robert Altman directed this, and it fundamentally changed how American films sounded, pioneering the overlapping, naturalistic dialogue style where characters talk over each other, conversations blur together in the background, and nothing feels scripted, even though every word is. Donald Sutherland and Elliot Gould play Hawkeye and Trapper John with a specific weaponized charm, using pranks, golf, and constant flirtation as armor against the horror happening in the operating tent 10 feet away. Released in 1970, at the height of Vietnam, everyone understood exactly which war the film was really discussing. The anti-authority irreverence wasn't comedy for its own sake, it was rage, wearing comedy as camouflage. It spawned one of the most successful television series in American history. The original film remained sharper, angrier, and considerably stranger than the show it inspired. Number 9. The King of Comedy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce myself. My name is Rupert Pupkin. I was born in Clifton, New Jersey, which was not at that time a federal offense.
An obsessive, delusional aspiring comedian is convinced that one appearance on his favorite late-night talk show will make him a star. When the host won't give him that appearance, he decides to take it. Martin Scorsese directed this, and it's one of his most uncomfortable, least celebrated films of Scorsese. A box office failure on release that has since been recognized as one of the most prescient studies of celebrity obsession ever made. Robert De Niro plays Rupert Pupkin with a specific, cringing intensity. A man so certain of his own greatness that reality itself seems to bend around his delusion, right up until the film forces you to watch exactly how far he's willing to go to make that delusion real. Jerry Lewis, cast dramatically against type, plays the exhausted, increasingly unnerved talk show host with genuine weariness. What makes the film so unsettling is how accurately, decades before social media made everyone a broadcaster, it anticipated a culture where proximity to fame would feel indistinguishable from actually earning it. Uncomfortable, unflinching, and more relevant now than it was in 1982. Number 8. Enemy of the State.
You have something they want.
Look, I don't have anything.
Maybe you do and you don't know it. You stay away from Rachel and you stay away from me. You come near either one of us, I'm gonna kill you.
A labor lawyer's ordinary week is upended when a friend secretly slips him a videotape, one that captures a congressman's murder, ordered by a senior NSA official trying to push through an invasive surveillance bill. Within hours, the full weight of the National Security Agency turns on him, not because he did anything, because he's holding evidence. Tony Scott directed this, and Will Smith plays Robert Dean with escalating panic as his entire digital and financial life gets systematically dismantled. Bank accounts frozen, phone lines tapped, satellites redirected to track his exact movements in real time. Gene Hackman plays a former intelligence operative living off the grid, deliberately echoing his own earlier role in The Conversation. A man who understands surveillance technology intimately because he built pieces of it himself and has spent years hiding from the system he helped create. Made 3 years before September 11th and well over a decade before Edward Snowden, the film's central anxiety, that the technology to watch everyone already exists, and the only question is who's willing to misuse it, reads now as considerably less like fiction. Tense, propulsive, and a film that only becomes more relevant with each passing year. Number 7. End of watch.
What the fuck is it?
Homeboy's a player, dude. We got a surprise for you. They brought you his AK.
2 LAPD patrol officers, partners, and genuine friends work South Central Los Angeles together. Routine calls, domestic disputes, small daily heroism nobody notices. Then, they stumble onto something connected to a Mexican drug cartel, and the cartel decides they need to be dealt with personally. David Ayer directed this using a handheld, semi-found footage style, dash cams, body cameras, a camera one of the officers is filming himself for a film class, that makes every scene feel unnervingly close and immediate. Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena play Taylor and Zavala with a chemistry that feels genuinely lived in rather than performed. The specific rhythm of 2 men who trust each other completely, who rib each other constantly, who would each, without hesitation, walk into gunfire for the other. What makes End of Watch hit as hard as it does is how much time it spends on the ordinary human texture of the job before the danger escalates, meaning that when the violence finally arrives, it doesn't feel like plot, it feels like loss. Gritty, propulsive, and genuinely moving by the end. Number 6. Headhunters. A corporate headhunter in Oslo lives a life far beyond his actual salary, funded by a lucrative side career stealing valuable art from the executives he interviews, replacing originals with forgeries before anyone notices they're gone. Then he targets the wrong man. Morten Tyldum directed this several years before he'd go on to make The Imitation Game, adapting Jo Nesbø's novel with a nasty, propulsive energy. Aksel Hennie plays Roger with a brittle, insecure confidence, a small man who has built an entire identity around appearing larger than he is, and who discovers, over the course of one increasingly horrific night, exactly how thoroughly outmatched he is. What makes Headhunters so entertaining is its willingness to be genuinely brutal and genuinely funny within the same scene. Roger's escalating, increasingly humiliating attempts to survive play as both nail-biting suspense and pitch-black comedy, often simultaneously. The film moves at a sprint once it gets going and never lets up, twisting its central power dynamic multiple times before the credits roll. A vicious, inventive Nordic thriller that deserves far more recognition outside Scandinavia. Number 5. The Illusionist.
To demonstrate how nature's laws may be bent, tonight I give you ice.
A magician in turn-of-the-century Vienna reunites with the childhood love he was separated from decades earlier, only to discover she's now engaged to the crown prince, a man with a violent reputation and everything to lose if she leaves him. Neil Berger directed this with a rich, painterly visual style, and Edward Norton plays Eisenheim with a controlled, watchful intensity, a man whose entire profession is built on misdirection, now forced to use every trick he knows for something considerably higher stakes than entertainment. Paul Giamatti plays the police inspector investigating him, caught between loyalty to the crown and a growing reluctant respect for a man clearly more intelligent than everyone currently in power. What makes The Illusionist work as more than a period romance is its total commitment to the mechanics of stage magic as narrative device. The film's climactic reveal recontextualizes everything that came before it, using the same techniques of misdirection that he uses on his own audiences, applied directly to the film's own audience with real precision. A handsome, patient period thriller with a genuinely satisfying final act reveal. Number 4. The Salesman.
کلم روش منتظر تو بودم. دست پشت دست کرد تو موام. من فکرم تویی.
A couple in Tehran, both actors currently performing in a local production of Death of a Salesman, are forced to relocate after their apartment building becomes structurally unsafe. Their new apartment has a dark history, and shortly after moving in, the wife is violently attacked by an intruder while home alone. What follows is not a straightforward thriller. It's something considerably more morally complicated. Asghar Farhadi wrote and directed this, and it won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film, his second such win. What Farhadi does better than almost any filmmaker working is refuse easy resolution. The husband's need for vengeance, the wife's need to simply move forward, and the eventual confrontation with the man responsible all pull the film in directions that resist tidy morality. Shahab Hosseini and Tarana Al-Adusti anchor the film, with performances built on suppressed rage and quiet devastation, a marriage slowly fracturing, not because of what happened, but because of what each of them needs to do about it. The parallel with the Arthur Miller play they're performing, a story about the collapse of a man's dignity, is never heavy-handed. It just sits there, underneath everything, making the final scenes land even harder. A masterclass in moral complexity from one of world cinema's finest working directors. Number 3. Warrior.
You're a teacher. You got no business in the ring with those animals.
Actually, I used to be one of those animals. Guess I forgot to put that down on my application.
Two brothers, estranged for years by a broken family and an alcoholic father neither of them has forgiven, find themselves both entered into the same winner-take-all mixed martial arts tournament, for entirely different reasons, and with no intention of speaking to each other before they're forced to fight. Gavin O'Connor directed this, and it's one of the finest sports dramas of the 2000s, precisely because the fighting is almost secondary to what's actually at stake. Tom Hardy plays Tommy with coiled, barely contained rage, a former Marine carrying guilt he won't discuss with anyone. Joel Edgerton plays Brendan, a high school physics teacher fighting to save his house from foreclosure, forced back into a sport he thought he'd left behind. Nick Nolte plays their father, now sober, desperately trying to earn back a relationship with sons who have every reason not to give it to him. Nolte's performance is the emotional core of the film, a man fully aware of the damage he caused, unable to undo any of it, watching his sons circle each other in a cage because he never taught either of them how to talk instead of fight. The final match doesn't resolve into simple victory. It resolves into something far more painful and far more honest. one of the most emotionally devastating sports films ever made. Number 2. Reservoir Dogs.
You wanna fuck with me? I'll show you who you're fucking with.
You wanna shoot me, you little piece of shit? Go ahead, take a shot.
Fuck you, White. I didn't create this situation, I'm dealing with it. You're acting like a first-year fucking thief. I'm acting like a professional.
6 career criminals, strangers to each other, are assembled under code names for a diamond heist. The job goes wrong before the film even shows you the robbery itself. What follows is the aftermath. Bleeding out in a warehouse, increasingly certain that one of them is a police informant, with no idea which one. Quentin Tarantino's directorial debut, made for barely over $1 million, announced an entirely new voice in American crime cinema. Dialogue that meanders through pop culture tangents before snapping into sudden, brutal violence. A structure that deliberately withholds the central heist and forces you to piece together what happened from fragments and flashbacks. Harvey Keitel, Tim Roth, Michael Madsen, and Steve Buscemi anchor an ensemble where everyone is superb. Everyone is suspicious, and everyone is running out of time in a single room that gets more claustrophobic by the minute. The warehouse torture sequence, scored to Stuck in the Middle with You, remains one of the most infamous scenes in 90s cinema, precisely because of what it withholds from the camera, rather than what it shows. This is the film that changed independent American cinema. It still hits like a shotgun blast. Number 1. The Pianist. Władysław Szpilman is a celebrated pianist on Polish radio when Germany invades in 1939. Over the next 6 years, he watches his entire world, his family, his career, his home, his city, be systematically dismantled by the Holocaust, surviving increasingly by luck, silence, and the sheer exhausting will not to die. Roman Polanski directed this, drawing on his own childhood experience surviving the Krakow ghetto. And what he built is one of the most powerful and unflinching films ever made about the Holocaust. Precise, unsentimental, and devastating specifically because it refuses any conventional narrative shape, following Szpilman through years of increasingly desperate, isolated survival rather than a single clean arc. Adrien Brody lost an enormous amount of weight, sold his apartment, gave up his car, and disconnected his phone in preparation for the role, wanting to genuinely understand isolation and deprivation before filming began, and won the Academy Award for Best Actor for the performance that resulted, becoming, at the time, the youngest actor ever to win in that category. This is not just the best film on this list, it is one of the most important and powerful films ever made about survival, memory, and what it costs to simply live through history at its most catastrophic. If you watch only one thing on this list, watch this. That's the end of today's list. 15 excellent films, some of them only on Prime Video for a limited time. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these have you already seen, and which one are you adding to your watch list tonight? And out of all 15, which one is your favorite film? Also, how did you like this video? Your feedback genuinely helps me make better recommendations and create videos you'll enjoy even more. And if you enjoy the video, do like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.